Okay, today we're talking P7, worksheet number 2. There are so many problems on here, I decided that instead of making up new problems, I would just do some of them off of the worksheet for today. So let's do some together. Notice it says solve graphically. I'm going to pause for a second while you grab your graphing calculator. Everybody get your calculators out. Okay, got my calculator up here, and I'm going to be doing number 1. I'm just going to type in 2x squared plus 17x plus 21. And then it says equals 0. I always get confused on this kind. Do you have to put in the 0? No. Can you put in the 0? Yes. Now on this kind of problem, I would put in the 0. All right? Equals 0. Because if you're going to try to say y1 is less than y2, if you don't tell it what y2 is, it's not going to work, right? Okay, so now I got both parts graphed. And now I've got y1 is less than y2. That's not exactly right, is it? What do we want for this problem? Less than or equal to. Okay, so everybody get to y1 and then get to that spot right there. And I'll show you where it is in catalog. Okay, so I'm going to catalog. It's above the 0, second catalog. And then I'm just going to arrow up from the bottom. You could start this at the z's and then like go down from there. You don't want to arrow down from the top. It would take forever. All right, so now I'm going to find less than or equal to. Just, there it is. Wish you could sort with an L, but it doesn't work that way. Okay, less than or equal to. Boom. It's in there. Enter. Now, let's just see what the graph looks like for this thing. See if we can interpret it well enough. There, I can see a line going between. Why can't I see that y equals 0 line? Wasn't there supposed to be another line? Because it's right on the axis. Yes, y equals 0 is right there. And there's already the axis line there. Okay, so it's got that line, it's got this line, and you all know that where it touches is, of course, the most important spots, there and there. But what's that little extra line going through the middle telling you? That's where it works. That's where you should shade. Okay, so if you're making a number line, the way I recommend you do this is you make a number line and you make your 2 important spots on the number line, which we will find by second calculate intersect. And then obviously it's telling us to shade between them like this. Now it doesn't tell us if these spots themselves work. Raise your hand if you know how to tell if they work. All right, only a few of you raised your hands, so I'm going to tell you. This right here tells me, it says or equal to, it tells me they work. If it says or equal to, you fill in the endpoints. Then the only thing left is to figure out what this number and this number are. So go second calculate intersect and make sure that you know how to do that. Second, actually I should wipe this off so it's going to be too messy. Calculate intersect is the number 5. And now I can just go enter, enter, enter. But the problem is I might not jump to the right spot. Because it treats that extra line, you know, that line that's going across there that we can see, it treats that like a line. So if you just trust it automatically, that's not a good idea. All right, I did happen to jump to one of my intersection spots, so it kind of worked there. And it's between negative 1.5, which is on the right, because there's a bigger negative number over there on the left. This is really important to get to the other one. Second, calculate intersect. You can't just hit enter, enter, enter every time. It'll just jump to the same spot. So you have to hit enter on the first curve, enter on the second curve, as long as you were on the right lines. And then the last one, this is important. When it says guess, that's when you move the spider. And as long as you get closer to this one than that one, it'll jump to it. See, I'll leave it a little ways away. And there, it jumped to it. -7. That is so critical that you know how to find those 2 intersection spots that I'm going to ask you to show the person sitting next to you. I'll tell you which one in a minute. That you know how to do it. And if you don't, they're going to show you. Because this is so important. A lot of kids just go, well, I just hit enter, enter, enter. That only works for one of the 2 spots. So here's the trick. When I give you the person that I want you to check, I want you to use your pencil or pen and point at, if their little star, their little spider thing is close to the one intersection point, you point at the other intersection point and make them find that one. Okay? So all of you are either showing somebody or being shown. Let me show you how. I'm going to pause for a second while I assign you a person. Here we go. All right, good. We've checked that. It seems like everybody knows how to do second calculate intersect well, because you're going to need that for this next test. All right. Now, this is not a final answer. How do you get the final answer? You got to write it in an interval like this. What did I just do wrong? I used parentheses. Why should I be using brackets? Because it touches at those spots. It works at those spots. If you plug in -7, for instance, into the equation, it will actually work. It'll give you 0 on this side and 0 on that side. And since it says less than or equal to, that's why the or equal to is key, because it'll come out to the same thing. But if there's an equal sign in there, then it's going to work. It's a true statement. 0 is less than or equal to 0. All right. So I think that's a good enough summary. Now let's just go through a few of these. I think number 2, somebody's probably already started number 2, so I won't have you skip that one. But I'm going to have you skip, let's skip number 3. Let's go to number 4, though, and talk about that just briefly. So if you were to put that in your calculator. Hold on, I'm looking for my calculator. Pausing. Okay, we're recording again here. Number 4. I got to put in 4x squared plus 2. So I go into my y equals. And I'm just going to clear all that out and retype it. 4x squared plus 2. And then another line at 9x. 9x. That's the beauty of just graphing both sides and see where they cross. Because you don't have to go through all the stress of solving this thing. If you're doing it graphically, it's so much easier. You don't have to set it equal to 0. You just graph both sides. Now I'm going to find the less than. It's going to be probably under catalog. I know it's under catalog. And I arrow up until I find less than. About 20 spots up or so. There it was. Okay, right there. And now I hit graph. And one warning, you won't always be able to see your graphs. Sometimes you have to change the mode. Now this one is a little more cryptic. What's happened is, I got my parabola. That was the left side of the graph. Then I got a straight line. I'm going to kind of tweak that a little bit so you can... Actually, that didn't work out as nice as I hoped. I'm going to try that again. Here's my parabola. Maybe I'll use different colors here. And then here's my straight line. And it's going through it. And remember, where they touch is the important spot. I'll do those in green. It touches here and it touches here. And then, can you see the little line right here that's saying go between those 2 points? So then all I got to do is find those 2 points, and I know I'm supposed to shade between them. All right? So I would make a little number line, and then I would shade between the 2 important points. So let's see here. Let's make a number line. And here's the 2 important points, and I'm going to shade between them. I don't know what they are, but do they work or not? They do not work because it doesn't have an or equal sign. All right? So if you aren't already doing this, I would copy this down onto your homework problem. You got a little thing like that and a thing like that. And then it's, actually that line was kind of off a bit. We're doing problem 4. Are you asking, what did you ask? All right. Thank you. There we go. So that one's 0.25 and that one's 2. Thank you. You saved me a ton of time. Can anybody verify that so I don't just trust one person? How did you get the 2? Second calculate intersect. Oh, I bet you for some of you it's not showing up on the screen. You have to zoom in or out, and in this case I think we actually have to zoom out a little bit to be able to see it on our screen. I'm going to hit zoom out. And this is a common misconception. As soon as I hit enter, it doesn't zoom out. You have to enter one more time, and now it zooms out. And you know, it's really small and difficult to see, but it doesn't really matter because the second calculate intersect is going to find it anyway. So I go second calculate intersect, and then I don't just hit enter, enter, enter. I want to get to the right one. Enter, enter, And then I have to arrow and get close to where it would be closer to 2. And then I hit enter. And there it is. It's at 2, 18. So which do I want of that, the x or the y? I wanted the x. We're solving for x, right? There's an x in the equation, right? So we want the x of it. So x equals 2. So you were right. It was 2 and 0.25. If you can't see where they intersect on your graph, then your calculator can't find where they intersect either. You have to be able to see where they're touching. Otherwise, your calculator can't do second calculate intersect. All right, good. Got those done. And why would I get it marked wrong for what I have right there? I need this. If I had said 1/4, 2, that would have been totally fine, but that's an interval. All right, so I got my sketch. I got my a little number line's a good idea. It doesn't even have to be that way, but you definitely have to have the interval notation. Okay. I may have my kids skip another problem or two, but I'm going to stop the recording there. I'm actually going to record just a little bit more because number 9 is algebraically, and I haven't shown that method yet. So let's do it algebraically. Right away, I'm looking at these thinking, I can probably factor that because it said equal to 0. And if I could factor it, I'd be able to get the zeros, the spots on the number line that are important. So I'm going to factor this puppy. It does not have a GCF in it, so right away I'm going to set up 2 sets of parentheses. And what I'm doing is trying to find the 2 spots on the number line. Now it's 2x and x. That should be a no-brainer because that's the only way to make 2x squared. 21 really only has 2 ways, a 1 and a 21, or what? 7 and 3. I'm guessing on 7 and 3. I'm going to go with 7 and 3. Now if I go 7 here and 3 here, outside and inside are going to make a total of 6 plus 7 is 13x. Swing and a miss. Didn't work. So then you try something else. You move the numbers because you were a long ways off. You want to change all the numbers around. So maybe make 3 here and a 7 there. Outside's 14, inside's 3. That makes 17. Yay, I factored it. Now, why is that good? Because now I can get the answers. This one sets x plus 7 equal to 0. X equals negative 7. This one, 2x plus 3 equals 0. And 2x equals negative 3. And x equals negative 3 halves. Now there's my 2 answers. Those are things on a number line. Then I got to test around it and try to figure out, do I shade in between? Do I shade on the outside? Pretty much everybody gets this part right. They get this number line. They get a negative 7 here and a negative 3 halves here. By the time you get to the test, that'll be the really easy part. But 2 common mistakes are the endpoints themselves. Since it says or equal, they work. Since it says or equal to there. And then the last thing is testing the intervals, and that's where kids generally suck. So you got to be really careful at testing your intervals. So what's in between negative 7 and negative 1.5? I'm going to go with negative 5. You can pick anything, but I like that one. So I'm putting negative 5. Now I have to put that in here and here. That's kind of a pain, but I can do it. Negative 5 squared is 25. 2 times 25 makes 50. Plus 17 times negative 5. Ooh, that's a bit of a pain. I can do it off to the side. 17 times 5. Remember, you won't have a calculator for this part. 5, 6, 9, 85. Okay, and that's a negative in it right there. So it's negative 85. And then it's plus 21. So 50 plus negative 85 makes negative 35 plus 21. Negative 35 plus 21 makes a negative number. At least I know that. And all I'm looking for is it less than 0? Negative numbers are less than 0, so it worked. So it works in here, which means 99 times out of 100, but not all of the times. It won't work here and it won't work there. So then it's probably, final answer, between negative 7 bracket and negative 3.5. Or sorry, negative 3 halves bracket. I've warned you. We like to give you the exceptions on the test. So test all the intervals on the test. We like to throw in things that don't work. You know, like you get your answers and then one of them doesn't work. And you have to notice that, otherwise you get it marked wrong. If you say 6 and -2 are the answers, but -2 is really extraneous, you have to cross it off and say extraneous. Otherwise, you didn't catch the exception, and we test the exceptions. So, yes, ma'am. This is pretty much review from yesterday, except I don't know if you remember, yesterday was all absolute values. This is pretty much all quadratics. So it's review in that respect. There's a graphing way and there's an algebra way, but those were absolute value equations, which solve a little bit differently than the quadratics, which you have to factor. Okay. All right. And I think that's all I got for you for today.